Good evening and welcome to today's session. This is an interesting session, hopefully, for architecture schools. Um, Now, the reason of why I'm doing this session is that, a lot of parents and students have reached out to us and said, DQ Labs has had sessions, a lot of sessions for design students and about the design school process and the architect and the fashion school process. But there's hardly been anything for the architecture students. Now, the reason for this is that, the design school admissions happen a lot earlier, right? So that's why earlier in the calendar, the focus is on them, but the architecture admissions happen much later. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. All right. And just a second. I'm going to start off right away, but before I start off, I need to see a thumbs up. I need to see some reaction that y'all can see my screen and my screen is visible to you. So can I get a yes or a heart or a like? Because that's going to help me understand that you can see my screen. Okay, let me do that. Okay. Is anyone seeing my screen? Let me restart because I need to ensure that everybody's seeing my screen. All right. Okay, I'm getting the reactions now. So, okay, right? So now I'm sure that my screen is being shared and I'm going to go ahead and talk about this. So before we go ahead, I would like you all to take a screenshot or scan this QR code. Because if you have not joined this WhatsApp group, then you're missing out on a lot of important information. And that's why I would like you to join this WhatsApp group. If you all are part of the 2025 architecture program, for those who are in the 2026 program, we'll share we'll add you to a different link, right? But right now, this is the primary focus. Let's go forward. So the agenda for today is this. Number one, how does one get into an architecture school in India? What do you need to keep ready? What do you need to do in an architecture school over 4 or 5 years, right? How do you create your own rank list? And what can you do now? All right. So quite a few topics. This entire webinar should take me about 20 minutes to 30 minutes to deliver. And after that, and at any point of time, you can send out a message in the chat and we'll take it from there. Yeah. Let me just see that everything is going well. Please type in a yes if everything is going well. I'm going to share my screen again. Okay. So I'm not getting yeses or nos. I'm not getting any feedback. So I don't know. All right. I really need y'all to type in something in the message. All right. So that I can go forward. So I'm going to resume my screen sharing. And topic number one, how does one get into an architecture school in India? Now, there are three specific ways of getting into any architecture programs in India, right? So the first way is through JEE Paper 2. Now, this is for schools like SPA, Delhi, Bhopal, Vijayawada, NITs, right? So there are Bhopal, Calicut, Trichy, Nagpur, and many others. And then through some of the IITs as well, but I'll come down to the IITs in a little while. All right. So this is one way. The second way is the state-wise allotment. Now, many schools either they have, they go through allotment through the state. The state controls the allotment of the seats. So some seats will be reserved for students of Karnataka or Maharashtra, whichever state that you're in. But majority of the states will be through direct application, right? Which means you directly apply to them. They will create their own rank list and they will allot the seats, right? So I hope these three options are pretty clear. Now, let's go to the first option, which is getting through to JEE Paper 2. I'm going to pause my screen share and see whether you guys have reacted. Okay, Maya, Mohan, thank you so much, because this was very important for me to get a response from you. So now I know I can continue. Shout out to Maya Mohan, right? So now when you look at getting into SPAs and NITs, all right, there are two aspects that are there, right? So you answer the JEE mains. Now, under JEE mains, remember, JEE mains paper 1 is for engineering, paper 2A is for architecture, and paper 2B is for planning. Now, if you want to get into, architecture, and you say, I've answered paper 1, that's not going to happen, right? So you have to make sure that you answer paper 2A. Another thing that a lot of people are confused about, oh, I have to answer JEE paper 1. No, you don't. You just need to answer paper 2A, right? And then depending on the cities that or the states that the NITs are located in, they either take through All India rank, which means they don't have a reservation for that city, or some of the NITs do have a reservation, right? So if they do have a reservation for people from the state, then you need to have your domicile certificates, right? Now, the IITs specifically, there's a slightly different process, all right? So the IIT is required you to answer JEE mains paper 1. This is the paper for engineering, right? Remember this. This is the paper for engineering, which you need to answer. So there's JEE mains. If you clear this, you go to JEE advanced. And in JEE advanced, this paper 1 and paper 2. Remember, you're still trying to get into engineering, right? Those are the same exams for engineering. And then you answer a test called the architecture aptitude test, right? Now, this is a very similar test to the NATA test, right? So typically, the people who are targeting the IITs and they find out that they have a creative spark in them and they want to look out for alternatives, they are the ones who tend to take these exams, right? Because this is a cumbersome process. So, so remember, the process to get into IITs is very different for the process to get into NITs. Okay, so this is the process for NITs. That's JEE mains paper 2A, and this is the process for IITs, which is JEE paper 1 mains and JEE advanced paper 1 and 2 and architecture aptitude test. At this point of time, I want to make sure that everyone's clear about this. So please type in a yes if you are clear about this. And I'm looking for those yeses so that I can proceed further. All right. I'm assuming that the yeses are going to come in. Okay. Right. I'm going to go on. Okay. Thank you, Smita. Sorry, Sunita. Thank you. Now I'm going to resume. Okay. So that's clear how to get into IITs or SPAs. So if you go on to the JOSA website, you can actually go there and check out all the cutoffs that the cutoff ranks and all that. So JOSA, once you answer these exams, the seat allocation happens by another authority, right? And that authority is called JOSA, or Joint Seat Allocation Authority. And you can go online, search for JOSA, and you will find this past year information there, right? You will get this kind of a report. And so this is where you see the home state, the type of category, open category or economically weaker section, and OBC. So all of these, you'll see the opening ranks and closing ranks. Again, the gender categories. So everything is here, and it's quite detailed, it's quite clear, and we recommend that you have a look at this, right? And then you look into the IITs and NITs, how you can focus on this. So based on the rank list, you can understand the demand for each of these, right? So if you see the School of Architecture and Planning, New Delhi, this is the one with the highest demand, absolutely highest demand, right? So this, imagine if you get into this school, your peer group is going to be an outstanding peer group, right? So that's what you need to look for. Similarly, NIT Trichy, SPA Vijayawada, SPA Bhopal, these are the aspirational schools. And you need to ideally target a rank below 1,000 so that you get into one of these. Typically, the percentile that you need to look out for is in the 99 percentile plus, if it's a general merit. But if it's not in the general merit, if you're in the any of the categories, even up to 94 percentile, you can get through, right? So have you all understood the process for SPAs and NITs and IITs? Please give me a, please type in boom if you've understood. Boom, BOOM. Yeah. So that's gonna differentiate the yeses that you answered for the previous question, so that I know you're following this. Yeah. And let's see. Okay, I'm getting some hearts. I'm getting some reactions. Okay. You can also click the like button on this webinar, so that's going to give me an indication. Yeah. I'm going to resume my screen share, and I'm going to go through the next aspect, which is the state-wise allotment. All right. Now, state-wise allotment is generally done through NATA, right? So you have NATA. Remember, it is only those few schools that go through JEE Paper 2, they accept only JEE Paper 2 scores. Rest, every school in India would go through the NATA process, right? So this is where NATA becomes extremely important, all right? And most schools take NATA, including SEPT, including RV, including Ramaya and Vodiyar and all of these schools, right? Now, what happens when it comes to these schools? Now, depending on the state these schools are in, okay, depending on the state these schools are in, the government specifies, now the schools in, say, Gujarat, the government specifies you have to have 65% of the seats reserved for Gujarat domiciled students. Similarly, someone in Maharashtra, someone in Karnataka, every state has their own reservation category, right? Because they want to regulate, they want to support the population from the state, they want to regulate the fees, and really that's the benefit of getting a seat in your state, and that's what you should look for. For those of you who are looking to go outside your state, then you will qualify for the other 40 or 35%, whatever that is, right? And that also goes by merit level, but the school has the liberty to create their rank list and their entrance process, and they would allocate the seats. The third method to get into a private school is they probably have something called management seats, all right? So which means they have a small reservation, maybe 10%, 20% of the seats, they say these are reserved for someone who can pay the funds. So what happens is, because the fees are regulated in A by the government, then the schools need to make up the money to survive, right? Or to grow. So that money is made from the management seat. So if you really want a school in specific, then you can consider the management seats, right? So that's it. Now, if you go through now, how are the private seats allocated, right? Now, or now let me give you an example for Karnataka, right? So in Karnataka, 40% of the seats are reserved for Karnataka CT. Now remember, CT will only do the allocation. They don't care what marks you've got. Or right. So all this, you don't need to answer the CT exam. You don't need to answer physics, chemistry, math. All you need to do is submit your NATA scores, submit your board scores, and that's it. They are only a compilation, organization. They are only going to compile it together, create a rank list, and allocate the seats, right? So that's what the Karnataka CT does, or KEA. The private seats, some of the schools have said, let's get together and allocate the private seats in our own parallel process, right? So they have a fair way of doing this. Typically, they use 40% of their seats, they reserve it for this, and direct applications, another 30 seats. Now, here's the rider, okay? Here's the rider. A school in Karnataka can decide, I will allocate all my 100% of the seats. All 100% of seats I will allocate. I don't need the government to interfere. But I will follow the government rules, which means I will ensure that 40% of the seats go to Karnataka domiciled students in the order of preference that the government wants me to follow, right? So that is what the schools will do, and the remaining 60% of the seats they will allocate to others, but typically they have the autonomy for administering these seats, right? So which are the schools that do that? SEPT, Jindal School of Art and Architecture, Christ University, Bangalore. So all of these do it that way, right? So what happens is they take all your ranks, okay? They take your class 12 board scores, they take your NATA scores, they create their own rank list. They could also have an interview-based process, right? They could also say, okay, get your portfolio to me. I want to review your portfolio. And because they may not take everybody, they would like to get the best of the students in their program. So something like Jindal, something like Christ University, they are very, very focused on this. Yeah. So that brings us to the end of the first part of this talk, which is how do you even get into a architecture school? So if you followed me so far, please, hit the like button. So I need to see the number of likes increasing, so I know that y'all are following this webinar. All right. Okay. Now I'm going to resume my screen share again. Now, here it comes to the next section, which is what you need to keep ready. Now, when you apply, whether you're applying through Karnataka CET, whether you're applying through the COMEDK process, what happens is they release a brochure, okay, or a prospectus or brochure, whatever they call it. And in that, there is a detailed, structure of the entire process that's explicitly there for you to refer to. The instructions are there. All the sample letters are there, right? So you need to follow the instructions to the T, make sure that all these aspects are covered, right? So you need to get your documentation in place and, make sure that everything is in place. If you all come under EWS quota or some reservation quota, all that needs to be in place, right? So that's what you need to do. All you need is a NATA scorecard, your class 12 marks, board scores, and then the list of your documents. But most importantly, you need to have a list of preferred schools. Now, the list that you do for yourself, you can't go to your friend and say, oh, let me see your preferred school list. Let me do the same thing. It does not work that way, right? You need to see what kind of a school aligns with your philosophy. Remember, this is not, getting into a school is not like, okay, let me go and just look at a list and get there. There's a lot of thought that needs to go into that, right? And that thought process brings me to point number 3. Now, what do you need? What do you need to do in an architecture school, right? Now, how do you create this list in the first place? Let's go ahead a little bit. I'm going to pause my screen here, screen sharing here, and see. Okay, I see the likes going up. So you're following to some point. Okay, so let me go back and resume my screen share, right? So obviously everyone wants to get a job, or they want to start their own thing, or they want to go for a higher education in year 6. Architecture is a 5-year program, right? Now, what do you really need to do in the first few years of your architecture school? In the first 3 years, you are going to be exposed to so much, right? You're going to be exposed to different types of architecture, the philosophies of architecture. You're going to interact with tremendous number of experts in architecture, and some may not even be experts in architecture. They may be an expert in sound, or maybe in bamboo, or maybe in something related to architecture, right? There are workshops that connect dance with architecture. There are workshops that connect biomimicry with architecture, right? There's so much. It's a whole new world that opens up to you. So really, in the first 3 years, what you are trying to do is, number one, trying to understand what is there, what are the options that are there. Number 2, what interests you. Number 3, what are the events that you can participate in? What are the competition that you can participate in? Now, what is the research you can do in those areas, right? And most importantly, you need to build your network. I can't stress enough on this. Your network has to be built. So this is where you connect with your peer group within your school, outside your school. You participate in the NASA competitions. You connect with the best guest faculty that are coming to you. All of that happens in year 1, 2, and 3. By year 4, you need to have a strong portfolio in your area of interest. You need to connect with the companies that work in that particular area of interest. Identify about 40 to 50 firms, start your application process to them. And, in year 5, you need to actually intern with them. I hope you are getting me so far, right? So if you're able to do this by year 6, you will create great opportunities for yourself. I'm going to pause. Sorry, I'm going to pause now and check if you have any questions at this stage. Okay. So remember, now to aid you with this process, not every school has a different philosophy, right? Some schools will say, no, you don't need to participate in competitions. You don't need to do this. Just, we have a curriculum, follow the curriculum. You give me your submissions, I'll mark you on that. Some schools will push you. They'll say, you know what, you need to learn this software. Some schools will put tremendous pressure on you. They'll all put a lot of pressure on you to do things within and beyond. And depending on your capacity, you need to select a school that that you think will challenge you, right? Every school is challenging, but there are certain limits that you can take, or maybe you're geared up to take a higher limit, right? That's up to you. But typically, that's what you need to do. And at this point of time, just reply, just type in there, just type in a yes if you are following me. Okay. And I'm going to go forward. Now, how do you create your so now the question comes, how do I create my own rank list? I can't use, Dion is saying don't use a friends list, but I need to figure out what's good for me. So there are 3 stages in this. Number one stage is identify a location that you're interested in and the previous year cutoff scores. This is very simple. Number two is understand the philosophy of the institute and their brand name and their legacy and the faculty that's there at that institute. And number three, stage three, understand the infrastructure, and maybe there are other parameters that you'd like to put in, right? So that would be important. But stage one is rather simple. You just need to do some level of secondary research, and it's easy. All you do is you decide which state you want to go to, within the state, maybe which city you want to go to, and maybe within each city, you say, no, I'm comfortable going to a location close to home. Or I don't mind, I want to leave my house, I want to stay in a hostel, so I'm just going to go somewhere else, where I can stay in a hostel. That's up to you. Or you want to go to a different state. That's perfectly up to you, right? Now, that part you need to discuss with your parents, and your parents need to be comfortable with that, because end of the day, they are sponsoring your education. So make sure that they are okay with that. Point number two, or stage number two, create your rank list. This is a little complex. It takes time and it takes effort. What you need to do is understand the philosophy of the head of the institute. You need to understand who is heading your institution and what philosophy they want for you. And you look at how they're implementing this philosophy, because each time a head comes, they take years to implement a philosophy, right? And that head changes, and a new head comes, that philosophy changes. There's a change in their style. All right. So that's what you need to look out for. Very important to interact with the head of the institute. Very important to know the brand name or the legacy of the school and the faculty at the school. So that's also important. But the philosophy of the school really defines your future, right? Now, just to give you some aspects on this, pretty much all the schools will talk about events, that they're allowing their students to go into NASA, and there's international associations and placements and projects and travel and all of that. Everybody will speak the same language. But the skills to succeed as an architect, as a professional architect, you need to have some level of negotiation skills, right? You need to know how to charge for talent that you have taken to build up, right? If I'm going and buying a car, I know there's some amount of effort going into manufacturing the car, and there's a value associated with that. But for a skill that's in your head, it's taken you years to build a skill, right? How do you charge for that? That is a negotiation skill. There's a certain element of entrepreneurship. There's a certain element of marketing or selling your ideas, or a business skill to that, right? So all of these skills. So the school that you need to go to, you need to ensure that they go beyond just the architecture skills, and they teach you other skills as well, right? So that's what you need to look at. And of course, then you create your own rank list, and you actually take the trouble to visit the schools, have a look at the infrastructure. You may have your own parameters. You can say, okay, my friend is going there, so I want to go there. Oh, this school is close to home, so I'm considering that. These are your parameters, right? So very important that you actually go visit the schools and you see the kind of environment that they build, right? So this is the pictures of schools, of Christ University School of Architecture. Absolutely amazing. In my opinion, one of the best infrastructure you will see in India, right? And I'm going to pause over here. And those of you who are following, please type in there following, right? So I know that you'll are following this conversation. Yeah. So I'm very keen to know that you'll are following this conversation. I'm going to go forward. Now, when you decide to create your rank list, you look at the previous year cutoffs, you go online, look at the previous cutoffs, and by that, now what you will understand is that this is the demand for a school, right? Last year's demand for the school, the top 44 ranks selected this school, or the top 50 ranks selected the other school, right? And so you have a list of, okay, schools based on your, and these are preferred schools. Okay, this was just some ad hoc information. Now, you may find these ranks because these are part of, say, the Karnataka CET process, or maybe the COMEDK process, but there will be schools that are not participating in this, right? So like Christ University or Manipal or NITE Institute of Architecture in Mangalore, they will not participate in this COMEDK process. So they would fill their seats by themselves. So you need to consider those as well. And then you rearrange the list to your preference. So in this case, you may not, one school has a low cutoff, but the other school is more convenient to you, right? In terms of location. So you select that, you prioritize, you rearrange your list. And that's how you kind of make your preference list. And then you can, maybe add these to those lists so that you have your own preferred list, right? Let me check if you all are following. Yes, you are following. I'm glad. Okay, let me go back. And the question is, what can you do now? All right. So the NATA exam is some time away. NATA exam, remember, is in April. So there's a lot of time for you guys, right? You don't need to worry. The JEE paper 2, paper 2A, that exam is happening much earlier. It happened. There are two rounds for that. One is in Jan, one is in April. So you need to be absolutely ready for the January one, because that's where you need to give it your best shot. Focus on JEE paper 2. For those of you who have not joined us, you can join us for the crash course. We can help you out there. If you've joined us already, pay attention in the crash course and the refresher programs. There's going to be a few before the exam. So that's very, very critical. Yeah. But there are 4 other things that you could do. You could attend the Design and Architecture Conclave at DQ Labs. They have these periodically. Attend at least 10 e-meets with different architecture schools, at least 10, right? Because traveling to the schools is a big challenge. You can't travel to all the schools. That's why we get the schools to you during these architecture conclaves. E-meets is another platform where we bring the schools to you. All right. This is for those of you who want to attend online. In an architecture conclave, really, you get only that much time to interact with the school. But the e-meet is meant to bring the head of the school and for them to talk about their philosophy and why you should kind of join that school. Right. So that's very critical. So I don't know if you've seen this design and architecture career fair. We've had Christ University there, we've had NITE there, we've had Jindal there. So quite a few good schools were part of that event. We do the design conclaves periodically, and that's another event that you can attend. So look out for these events. Attend the e-meets. These are very, very important because they talk to you about their philosophy and why. Now, for example, Jindal School has the option for you to do 3 years in India, 2 years and 3 years in Australia, and then you can work in Australia and stay back as a resident architect there. And not only that, you can work in any of the Commonwealth countries, right? So they have a beautiful program. And these are things that you'll be exposed to when you attend these e-meets, right? If you're following me right now, type in yes so that I know that you're following me, right? I'm going to resume my screen share. Now, attend at least 5 DNES series. This DNES series is a wonderful series. Now, here, it's not the head that comes in. It is the faculty that come in, right? And here you get an essence of how the faculty break up a complex topic into something very simple that you can understand. A complex topic, they simplify the topic for you, right? So with this, you get an essence of how the faculty communicate, how the faculty deliver a topic, and how that interactive process helps you understand whether you would like to explore that kind of an ideology. So this is the next one. The fourth one, I can't stress on this enough. As much as you can, try and visit an architecture school. We've had some wonderful experiences. See this beautiful, beautiful experience. Now here, this is designed in such a manner that this part of the building, you will not talk loudly. You'll talk very softly. Whereas you go to the other parts of the building, you will talk loudly, right? So this is the learning in this thing. So this is what you get when you visit architecture schools, right? I'm going to try and play this other video. Yeah, this was the visit to Christ University School of Architecture. My opinion, one of the most beautifully designed schools, very similar to CEPT Ahmedabad, right? And I'm going to stop my screen share. There's something that's okay. And yeah, that brings me to the end of what I needed to discuss. I'm open to questions now. Okay. So I'm done with my part of the presentation. What are the questions that I could answer? And thank you to all those who have, responded. It helps me understand that you're following and helps me understand um, that I'm making a difference. So if you'd like, please hit, if you're enjoying this webinar, please hit the like button. That helps me, understand that I'm doing things right as well. So Faiza Anjum is asking, can you talk a little bit about what are the JEE paper 2 marks and the probable ranks of NATA, as well as to get into SPAs and NITs? Okay, so part one, to get into SPAs and NITs, you do not need NATA. All right. We recommend, the process is that you have to qualify NATA, but the entrance process goes by JEE paper 2. All right. So NATA is only a qualifying exam. That's it. But the real place where you need to score well is in the JEE paper 2 paper. Now, JEE paper 2A is a little confusing because they do not give marks. They give it as a percentile. All right. They give it as a percentile. And the reason for this is the government has been under tremendous pressure to reduce the pressure onto students, because the moment marks are given, then there's pressure on the students. So they've changed the format from marks to percentile or rank to percentile. But however, now that you have the percentile, they need to award ranks, right? So it's not the focus on marks, it's the focus on the rank after the percentage. So they have a conversion tool what they use. This is not declared openly. So they have a conversion tool where they convert the percentile into marks, and then the marks, based on the marks, they give you the rank. but that's all secret. Typically, 99 percentile would ensure that you are in the SPAs. Um, and with the NITs, maybe a 94 percentile upwards if you have category reservation, right? So make sure you find out whether you have the category reservation as well, because that could be helpful. Um, Faiza, I hope I've answered your question. For those of you, now, one more thing I need to mention for the JEE Paper 2 process, they stipulate that you need to have a minimum class 12 percentage, which has been relaxed over the past few years, but they are reverting it to the, we need to wait and see what they announce, but you need to maximize your 12th standard mode marks as well. Sarah is saying there are few universities or schools which have already started the admission process open for the coming academic year. What's the advantage of applying now? Should we wait for the NATA exam results and then apply? Or should we start answering now? Um, Yeah, so obviously the ones who've started the application process now would be the private schools, the ones who need to fill up their seats sooner, right? So what they do is they do the interview process first, they do the portfolio assessment first, and they secure your seat, right? And they secure your seat based on your performance, subject to you clearing NATA and subject to you clearing your board exams, right? Because for these schools, their focus is not on how well you do academically. Their focus is on how you are mentally prepared and suited for this career. So they take that as precedent. So, for example, if you look at schools abroad, okay, schools abroad don't have an entrance exam. They say, yeah, you take maybe SAT and GRE and whatever, TOEFL and all these exams, but you just take those exams and give that to us. That's a qualifying exam. But what they really want to do is they want to interview you. They want to see why you want to join the school, and based on that, they want to give you the admission. Or based on that, they may even give you scholarships. So the reason for that is they want to get very focused students. And sometimes focused students may not do too well in their board exams, right? Or they may not do too well in the NATA. They're not worried about that. They will work on your skills. But what they want is the right person there. Yeah. So Sarah, coming down to your question, I would say maybe you can apply and go through the process for at least one or two schools and then see. You can take a decision later, but just go through the process, understand what they're looking for. Okay. If you're doing that, I would recommend a few schools. Definitely Christ University School of Architecture, definitely Jindal, definitely Nitte Institute of Architecture, which is in Mangalore. All right. I think these schools are doing things very differently. Sunita M is asking, general merit, what is the percentile approximately? General merit also is a 99 percentile plus. That should get you in the, or maybe 98.5 plus, right? That should get you in the top 1,000 ranks. And remember, if you get a 98, 99 percentile, remember, it's not too hard. It's not too hard to get that, all right? Because think about it, there are a lot of people who will answer the JEE Paper 2 exam, and most of them don't focus on sketching. So the kids of DQ Labs have worked hard on their sketching and they can do extremely well, right? But you also need to do well in your aptitude, and you also need to do well in your mathematics. There are three sections: math, aptitude, and sketching. Um, the weightage for aptitude is the highest, which is 200 out of 400. The weightage for math and sketching is equal, which is 25, which is 100 marks each. And remember, you have an edge for the sketching. You need to focus on aptitude and math, and you'll do well. Okay, a lot of our students get 98 percentile plus every year. Lakshmi Priya Subramaniam is asking, how do the DQ Labs mock tests compare to the actual NATA and JEE Paper 2 mock tests? The format is exactly the same. There is a variance in maybe the questions because we want to give you variations in these questions. So it's absolutely critical that you do the mock tests and do all the mock tests once, twice, thrice, because uh, you need to perfect that. You need to be ready for changes in weightages. All right. So some would be more aptitude heavy, some would be more sketching heavy. Some are with the older formats, some are with the newer formats, because you don't know when they're going to change their formats. All right. So you need to be ready with all formats. So just follow the uh, DQ Lab mock test and you will do rather well. Does DQ send any information when the admissions are open for different colleges? Yeah, we try to, but it's not always possible. So if you join the WhatsApp group, that could help a lot, because a lot of people share the information that they get, and they may get information that sometimes we don't have access to, or they may get information before us. So for those of you who would like to join the WhatsApp groups, please make sure that you're part of this community. Scan this in and you'll be part of the community, and be active out there. You never know whom you're helping or what kind of help you will get. Janvi Patel is asking, what about JJ School of Architecture? What's the estimated average NATA score needed for it? So JJ School of Architecture is one of the toughest schools to get into in India. One of the most aspirational schools, fantastic school to get into. Now, the NATA exams are relative, again, are relative, all right? Because if the exam is tough, it's tough for everybody. If the exam is easy, it's easy for everybody, right? So depending on the difficulty level, every year this has been changing. Now, so I think last year we've got a 180, 181 around that. That's a top NATA score. Very tough to get that. We have tremendous number of 170s, 160s, but that was last year's format. There have been previous years where the rank one in Karnataka has been 140s, right? That's a rank one in Karnataka. This time, our student got rank one. He's got 180 rank. So sorry, a score of 180 NATA. So it's rather relative, and you can look at that and figure things out. Um, just one more thing. Let me. Yeah, I will pull up one more sheet, which is the Hall of Fame. Okay, I'm going to show you a Hall of Fame for 2024, because this is important and relevant to this, right? So if you see this, DQ Lab students last year in 2024 have scored rank 1, rank 2, rank 3, rank 4, rank 6, right? And all these students have taken the mock test, they've taken, whatever we've done really seriously, and they've got the top ranks. So we want this for all our students. All of you all should get the top ranks, like these students have done. And these are their scores, right? So 181, 174, 174, 172. So a lot of good scores. 150s, 160s, very challenging. Getting a 180 is absolutely unbelievable, right? So this is some of our papers. Okay, so in 2024, Daman Avri has scored 99.97 percentile in JEE Paper 2. 99.97 percentile, right? So this is Uh, Outstanding. So just focus on what we have, and that will help you out. Okay. Any other questions? Right. If there's no other questions, we can end this webinar. I'll wait for another couple of minutes, maybe a minute or so before we can end it. All right. Right. So maybe you can let me know if um, I'm going to put a poll across. Okay. All right. I'm going to throw a poll in so y'all could just respond to this poll. So I get some kind of feedback about this. So Simra Said is asking, when do we get registered for the NATA 2025 exam? April, is the registration online? Right. So Simra, the applications typically open up much later, somewhere in April, and you can choose, I think, 3 attempts. So in 2024, so the format keeps changing every year. All right. So last year the format was you can take 3 attempts. You can choose it. The exams happen on every Saturday and Sunday, so you can choose the dates that you want to um, take the exam on. So they will open up those slots somewhere in April. And since you mentioned that you're an NRI, they have international centers as well. So you can take this in Dubai and, other countries in the Gulf especially. So that will help you out. So Simra, I hope I've answered your question. Generally, you can look out for the NATA application in 2025 April, or maybe from around March, you can start looking into the, um, you know, um, you can look into the website. All right. Matthew Sebastian is saying, is a portfolio an advantage for admission? Only for the schools that focus on that, right? Like the schools that I mentioned earlier, Christ University, um, you know, Christ University for uh, NITE Institute of Architecture, for Jindal School of Art and Architecture, only for them. Other schools, really, the portfolio is not too much of an advantage. How do we attend the e-meet sessions for the colleges? Where are those links put up? RS, that is put up in the WhatsApp groups. I shared the link, so I hope you're on the WhatsApp groups. I'm going to share that link again because I need to make sure that everybody is on this WhatsApp group. And if you'd like, this is the best time to just scan this QR code and you'll come to the WhatsApp group. Yeah. So I hope this is, I'm going to pause on this. Okay. So all the communication is going to be there going forward. And I hope this session has been helpful to you. And do reach out on that WhatsApp group, and we'd be happy to respond and answer your questions there. All right. All the best to you all. All the best to you all. And I'm going to stop the screen share and I'm going to end the session right away. All right. Thanks a lot. And enjoy the rest of your day, and happy Diwali to everybody.